that on the front end, okay? On the back end, sorry.
Got it.
If I miss something or somebody, can you please let them in as well? Let's see. I don't know if she heard that, but I will do that. Hi, everyone. Hang in there. We're going to get going in just a second.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. I don't know where you all are.
Around the world.
That's what I thought. That's why I figured I needed to hit all the time zones.
Well, thank you for that, Amy. It's wonderful to meet you.
I don't know who's speaking.
Oh, no, sorry. Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm with the New Society Gallery, and I work with SAI. So I was very eager and very excited to be joining the conversation today.
Fantastic. Great to see you.
Yes, great to see you too, virtually.
Yes.
Yeah, so hang on, everybody. We're gonna go live on live stream. So give me a second as I set that up, so we can get going. And I hope you're all doing well. I am super excited to chat with Amy today. Okay, so we are live. So good afternoon, actually good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from. And whenever you're watching this, actually, I want to welcome you to our first April seminar. And our guest speaker today is Amy Aines, whom I'll introduce shortly. My name is Fanyam Windy. I'm glad to be your host today. I'm the chief resident here and founder at SAI, and we focus on accelerating access to STEM, really helping these founders build sustainable, fundable programs in STEM around the world. And that's kind of our mission, to help them. And this session today is really geared, and all the seminars are geared towards that goal. So before we get going, I want to do a couple of announcements to get us going. So it's been a really active quarter. We just actually finished our third quarter this March 31st. And I wanted to make the first announcement that Claire Holosvitsky is our SAI hero of the quarter. Okay, and so she just joined us in December. She's our communications officer at SAI, and she goes the extra mile to strengthen the community and takes the initiative, breaking down all the silos. And that's the kind of people, and many of the staff and fellows and residents are doing this already. But Claire has really been a huge asset and really building those connections. And so Claire, thank you so much for all that you're doing. And this was awarded by the SAI Resident Action Committee. So for those of you who want to join this committee, please let me know on Slack. That's something that we always welcome new members to help us continue to strengthen the community. So Claire, congratulations on that award. So as I mentioned, end of quarter three, yay. The C5 SAI fellows, believe it or not, are now at week 5. Things are moving very, very quickly. Pitch days on May 15th. So please, we have an Eventbrite, go there, register. They're going to be pitching some awesome projects. Welcome to Ahmed Mohammed, who is our junior resident, founder of Kids Cubed. Check out his site, really fantastic work that he's doing. And he's just a high school student, actually, which is really, really impressive on that. A welcome to Kushbuk Kishi Rasara, who is our New Society Fellow, first cohort. So visit newsocietyart.org and learn more about her and her work. She is an engineer, and she's doing some really cool stuff, trying to create new tools to connect and to showcase with the museums and so forth. Using art as a vehicle to bridge the gap between science and society. Really fantastic work. I'm really excited to see what she comes up with at Demo Day, and we'll make that announcement later. And new website, Prasha Sarwate, who is one of our trustee members and founder of Her STEM Story. She just launched a new website, prashadutra.com. I encourage you to go and check it out. She is, I say, the OG to SAI, was there in the earliest days when things were, there wasn't much. And so I'm really excited to have her join us, to have her launch this site as well. Okay, so I want to take this opportunity to now introduce Amy. And Amy, I wanted to share a quick story here that we actually, back in July 16, 2020, she sent me a message through LinkedIn. This is how the world of connections works. And she was sharing her passion and interest, telling me that she read the Club Right publication, where I gave an interview to them through the STEM Peers group. And we were talking about communication, how important it is. And she agreed, and I was super excited about that. So Amy knows how much words matter, okay? As a communication strategist and speaker coach, she is an expert, and I'll tell you she's an expert at tailoring information to engage listeners and build support. As you know, as you guys know, communication is pretty much everything. I preach that all the time. She has been a CEO of her own communication consulting firm for 20 years, and is the co-author of the book, Championing Science, Communicating Your Ideas to Decision Makers. I mean, she is everywhere. After writing the book with her husband, Roger, he's a scientist, Amy shifted her focus. Now she holds workshops, teaches courses, helps scientists use words to make a bigger impact with their work. And that's what she plans to do for us today in terms of helping us communicate better, to be better. And remember, this is a practice. Practice, practice. Amy, with that, welcome.
Oh, I love that word practice. You'll hear me say it too. Thank you. Well, I love helping people succeed, especially people like Fanuel. I love the SAI mission. I'm excited for all of the fellows. I look forward to seeing you again in May, just before your pitch day, and being there on pitch day. And what gets me so excited about being involved today is that all of you are working to connect more people to the value of science. And so am I in the work that I do. And I have a confession to make. I have a bias because I've been a communicator my entire career. I believe that your ability to use words will make or break your success. So it's so much fun for me to have the opportunity to spend an hour with you on 7 ways to be a more, emphasis on more, confident, compelling, and engaging speaker. And when I say more, I'll make 2 predictions. One is that by the end of this hour, you will absolutely know how to be more confident, compelling, and engaging. You'll have more confidence in your ability to do that. And you will be more confident, more compelling, and more engaging than most scientists, because most scientists don't know what I'm about to tell you. I think of this as a seminar course. It's an overview. I've got 7 topics. So yes, there'll be some drinking from the fire hose going on today. So I know you've done that before. Graduate school makes that happen. So I'm not worried about you keeping up with me. We'll make it interactive. We're going to use the chat. If you'd like to post questions there, Fanuel's going to keep an eye on it. I know we have folks watching live stream who aren't part of SAI. And I know you're not going to get a chance to ask questions directly, but you can always reach me at amy@championingscience.com if there's a question you have, and we can connect at some point in the future. So with that, I'm going to dive in. The first 30 seconds of any presentation, anytime you speak, and you're the one in the front of the room, is the magic opportunity to absolutely get instant engagement. But guess what? Most people don't do that. Most people start a talk like this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mira. I just graduated from MIT after finishing my master's, and before that, my bachelor's there in electrical engineering and computer science. This fall, I'm going to be starting my PhD at Stanford in electrical engineering. I'm a Bay Area native, so I'm telecommuting just from Union City. This summer, I've been working with Tom Des Hotels, and I'm really excited to share my research with you.
Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the way Mira did that. She brought enthusiasm and energy. I got to know her because I was asked to provide feedback after this Summer Slam event to the 15 finalists. But take a listen to this and think about how much more instantly engaged you'd be if she had started her talk this way.
In a pandemic, we want to be able to find a vaccine or therapeutic as soon as possible. This can mean finding an antibody that can bind to a specific pathogen. But designing antibodies is actually a really, really hard problem, which usually takes a long time.
If she had said that and then introduced herself, you'd be waiting with anticipation. You would want to know what she was going to tell you next. And that's what I mean by instant engagement. Give people a reason to care, interest them in your topic, help them feel a sense of who you are and your energy and enthusiasm about what you're going to do and talk with them about today. So let me show you an example of how that works when you put that hook before introducing who you are. I got to hear Ada deliver this at the virtual AAAS meeting, and I reached out to her because I thought she did a really great job. She did so many things right. And she said, sure, you can use my video. So take a listen.
Many of us may be aware that in the upcoming years, NASA has the goal to send humanity to the moon, but also to Mars on vehicles similar to this one that I have in my hand. However, although as exciting as this journey poses a significant health risk to humans, which is space radiation. So before I explain further, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Ada Konevskite, and I'm currently a senior in biomedical engineering at The Ohio State University.
What is it that you saw her do that made this engaging? I'd love to get a little comment or two going in chat here. So take a moment and comment, if you would, about what you watched her do that made that opening engaging. She related it to humans, absolutely. Tied it to current events, held up a prop, yes. Showing people something catches their attention. Fundamentally, what you want to do is something that people aren't going to expect, because that's going to get them to pay attention. And the beauty of that 30 seconds is that when you take the stage, when you're the rectangle in the room that everybody's looking at and you've suddenly become big on the screen, all eyes are on you. So it's your moment of opportunity. Don't forget to seize it. So I want to help you appreciate how to think about opening lines. And I want to talk about 4 approaches. And as Fanuel and I were talking about how to make this an effective session, he shared with me the link to last year's session. So I got a chance to watch the presentations. They were 10 minutes long. And the very last one, yes, I stayed till the very end. The very last one was done by Sarah White, who's also known as the PhD Princess. And I found her topic delightful, and I decided to use it today as a source of examples. So I want to give you 4 specific approaches you can use for opening lines. But for those of you that haven't heard about what Sarah's doing, I just want to give you a little sense of that, so this will make more sense. She is an educator who has learned the power of using popular culture as a way of engaging kids to learn more about science. She also happens to be a lover of all things Disney. So I want to share with you a few different approaches that she might use in her opening line. Revealing a finding, something out of the ordinary that you've learned that's related to your topic that you think might pique curiosity. She could talk about cosplay being one of the newest ways to engage students in learning science. She could also set up a problem. and personalize it. As an educator, I've been struggling. It's hard to reach kids who aren't inherently interested in science, especially in middle school, which is the critical time when kids lose interest in science. She could also ask a question. And my favorite question construct is, what if you could? The reason I love it is because it helps you bring people in to imagine with you. This works for science topics too. Even if you don't have the answers yet, but you want to explore something with your research, a what if you could question is really magical. So for Sarah, what if you could use Disney characters to get more kids to engage in learning science? The last one is prediction. You heard me do this earlier. I predicted all of you will be more confident, and I predicted you're going to stand out. Sarah could predict that popular culture would inspire millions of kids to love learning about science, and then say, I'm Sarah White. Some people know me as the PhD princess. So that's what I mean by thinking about your opening. It's not something you just instantly get. It's something that takes time. And the more you know about the people listening to you, the more you can create an engaging opening that connects people. There's a saying that people won't care about what you have to say until they know you care about them. And that's part of what you want to convey in your opening. So instant engagement. Pay attention to your opening lines. And for those of you who are in cohort 5, that's what we're going to be working on. You have an assignment. You'll be getting a set of handouts from the talk today that have this information, and along with it, some other background and material you'll find useful to help you prepare for when we get together on the 11th. And that's when we're going to be running through your openings and doing a little bit of workshopping to help you all be at your best for the 15th. So instant engagement. One of the ways to be a more compelling speaker is to appreciate the power of thinking about emotion. And most scientists don't spend a lot of time thinking about emotion. But Chris Volpe does. Chris is the founder of Science Counts, an organization that helps advance and promote science. And listening to him speak about a year ago, he said something that really stays with me, and I'm sharing it every chance I get. What he said was, as human beings, we are feeling beings who think, not thinking beings who feel. And if you've read Dan Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, you'll see a lot of the science. If you haven't read it, highly recommend that you do. You'll see a lot of the science behind that, how it affects decision-making. But the bottom line is heart matters. And when you as a speaker think about how to connect at that heart level, it can make such a difference. It makes you more compelling. And I got news for you. If you're trying to raise money, the heart is the key. You want to capture head and heart. So how do you do that? How do you think about that? Well, words can do that, but so can pictures. When you look at that picture, because it's full screen, because it's really engaging, it begins to evoke a feeling. So for those of you who can chat with me, what does that picture make you feel? Drop a note in the chat and let me know. What does that picture make you feel? Oh, Sarah, you're here. Fantastic. I can't wait to meet you in person. Okay, most of you are roller coaster lovers. Okay, good. I got somebody who's more like me. Yeah, it's not my thing. Anyway, the power of pictures, the right pictures can be so compelling. So remember that. And full screen makes a difference. I just watched a talk last week, which was great. It was about the history of science communication. And the missed opportunity was the speaker built the story with little pictures. She could have had 15 slides that were full screen pictures and then come back and shown it in its full circle, which was a point she was making. Total missed opportunity. So go with the full screen photos when you get the chance. The other thing to know about emotion is it really is contagious. Dr. Susan Wenchek has done a lot of work in this area. People imitate your feelings. So if you bring your enthusiasm and your positivity into the room, it can make such a difference. And a lot of us are taught to be more scholarly and formal when we get up in front of the room. But the more authentic you can be, and the more you can let the part of you that's excited to do what you're doing show through, you will be way more compelling. So don't hold back. The other thing about emotion is that people are more receptive when they're in a good mood. So if there is a way for you to bring something positive to the room when you start to talk, it helps. Before you put any slides together for a presentation, this is the question you should spend time on. What do you want your listeners to feel? Notice that's first. Think and do as a result of hearing from you. What impact do you want this presentation to have? And for those of you that are competing in May, we know what impact you want it to have. You want to be selected as the winner. For me, as I thought about how do I deliver something of value to you today, I thought, I want you to feel inspired, motivated, and capable of being more confident and compelling and engaging. And I want you to think that the information I'm providing to you today is something you can incorporate into how you operate. I also want you to think that I know my stuff. And what I want you to do is what Fanuel said, practice. I want you to practice. I want you to take pieces of this. Don't try to do all 7 things at once. I know you're probably all overachievers. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this fellowship at the same time many of you are in school or doing a postdoc. But pick pieces of it. Practice a little bit at a time. Start to integrate these components. So before you put any slides together, take yourself through this feel, think, and do thought process. Then you'll be ready to move ahead. Practice is the key to being confident. What I want to talk about today is how to appear confident and how to sound confident. We could spend time on how to feel confident, and I'd love to do that, and I'm happy to chat about that. But my focus today is how to appear confident and how to sound confident. So let me ask again in chat if you'd say, what to you makes someone appear confident? What is it that you want to see from somebody who's showing up confidently? What does it look like when someone's confident? Tone of voice, eye contact, yes. And when it comes to eye contact, right now it's looking at a green dot. That's the only way to have eye contact. I have a whole method for conversational eye contact when you're back in the room with people. Talk speed, yes, yes. Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to touch on a couple of those things. All right, you're gotten it. Posture and body language. Those are all the components. So let's look at that. Let's unpack that a little bit more. I'd like to have you take a look at the folks here. I've numbered them just so that it's easy to pick. Who from this group strikes you as most confident? If you were going to pick the winner. And once again, let's use chat so I can see what you all think. Yeah, pretty resounding number 5. And gentleman number 5 wins because his posture's great, his smile is great, the way he's got his jacket slung over his shoulder. I would love it if his hand wasn't in his pocket and it was just by his side, but it could certainly be available to gesture freely. and it's not invisible. The other important thing here, and this is where the research comes in, the research shows that anytime you're clamping your hands together or touching your face or crossing your arms, or you have your hands behind your back like we see in this photo, you don't appear completely at ease. The same thing with stance. As you notice, number 2, number 3, he and she are both using their legs and having their feet off the ground, compared to number 5 and number 1, who are very centered and grounded with their feet forward and firmly planted. So those are the things to keep in mind. And it's clear to me that you already know that. The opportunity to take confidence a step further is when we're back in the room with people, and that's moving confidently. You don't want to pace back and forth, but you want to move purposefully towards people in the room. And we can spend some more time on that another time, because I think it'll be a while before we're doing that. So anyway, right now we have to look our best in this environment. So for those of you that have ring lights, make sure to test them, that they're located in such a way where you're not getting the glasses glare. Make sure that your face is in the frame. As you notice, this woman here is very close to the top of the picture. It would be nice for her to be a little further down. You want yours to be as centered as you can be in the picture, but you want to be far enough back that you can be natural and use your hands and gesture and move. And I was listening to somebody at a workshop recently say he's had to train himself to do gestures higher up because he's tall and that's not natural for him. But that's what we have right now, is this. So, and let's talk about background. It's important to know that what people see behind you will be professional and won't be distracting. And I like the alternate backgrounds, but every now and then the virtual backgrounds get a little strange. And my husband tells the story of one of his colleagues who bent down to get something and they saw his unmade bed behind him. So just know, if you're using a virtual background, that if you move a lot, it can shift on you and reveal what's behind you. So the make your bed rule. I want to share with you, and I will be, like I said, providing a handout to the fellows, an article that I just came across on confidence and posture. And I want to talk about this for a minute because I think it's important. Physiologically, they're starting to recognize that correct spinal alignment really has an effect on your body overall because of thyroid function and hormone release and brain activity. And so, and they're associating it with mood and positivity. So sitting up straight has benefits that really accrue to confidence. So it's more than just appearing confident. What this article tells me is that our bodies will be more confident. And some of you may have heard about Amy Cuddy's research and the work about presence and the hero stance, and trying to make yourself stand in a way that you have a sense of confidence. And for some people that might work. So it's worth a shot to help yourself assume a posture of confidence, to bring the feeling of confidence along with it. So just to recap, appearing confident is sitting and standing tall. It's taking up space. It's having your head and chin at an even level. A smile goes a really long way. The green dot is your friend for making eye contact. You want your hands to be visible so that you have the freedom to gesture. And somebody said it in the chat, you don't want to be rushing through your speech, because when you talk in a nervous pace and you don't slow down and you're going on and on and on like that, people have this sense that you are not confident. The good news is speaking quickly for a period of time is okay. You just don't want to continue to do it. So that's how to appear confident. Now I want to talk about how to sound confident. And I am going to get into the topic of voice in ways that might be surprising to you, perhaps things you haven't thought about. Most people don't think about voice the way we are here. I want to talk first about how to sound confident, and I want to show you what it sounds like.
The President of the Commission, Mr. law, said at press conference the other day that he wanted the European Parliament to be the democratic body of the community, he wanted the Commission to be the executive, and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No, no, no. Oh, the President.
Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, went to a speaker coach because she knew how important it was to sound authoritative. And what she learned about was how to work with your head voice, that higher pitched part of our voice, and your chest voice, that lower part of our voice, and how to use her voice to support the emotion she needed to convey. So authoritative voices are deeper and more resonant. You sense somebody is authoritative when they're not hesitant when they speak and when they don't use too many filler words. So I want to give those of you who occasionally say and a sigh of relief here. Go ahead and take one, because that's human. We do that when we talk. But if you're doing it too much, it is something to work on because it can undermine sounding confident. And so can upspeak or valley talk, girl talk, as it was once known.
I'm in my 6th year and hopefully finishing up next February. And I hope to be introducing a new program when I'm finished with my studies.
That's me doing an upspeak imitation to help you hear how that questioning tone at the end of what you say doesn't make you sound like you're really sure of yourself. And that's what we're trying to do here, sound confident. So here's the part that I talked about getting a little deeper into voice. I want to talk about where resonant sound comes from. It comes from breath. And if you do any kind of meditation, you're already going to be familiar with diaphragmatic breathing. It's that deep belly breath. But if you would join me by taking one hand and putting it on your belly button and the other putting it across your heart so you can feel both your chest and your belly, I'd like you to take a breath and do your best to push your lower hand out and not move your upper hand. Really isolate a deep belly breath and see what that feels like. It might not be something you're used to. It can take a lot of practice to get comfortable with it. But when you can get that much breath, you've got a bigger column of air to create the power to power your voice, the vibration that's going to power your voice. So learning to take that kind of breath can help. And getting good at that also helps calm the speaker jitters, because when we're nervous, we tend to chest breathe. So if you learn more about how to connect at a diaphragmatic breathing level, you'll have more breath, you'll have more sound. Now I want to talk about how you warm up your voice, how you get the muscles in your face, in your jaw, your lips to work better together. And I want you to imitate this little guy with me and just yawn. A big yawn, so you can feel what it's like to stretch all of that. That's what enables us to have resonant sound. Have you ever noticed people who have kind of a muffled speech? And if you look at them, when they're talking, you'll see that they don't open their mouths very wide. They don't enunciate or articulate or exaggerate their movements with their mouths. And we need all that to make sound. So a yawn is a great way to do that. Another way to warm up your voice, and this has a secondary benefit that I'll tell you in a minute, is with tongue twisters. So, you know I'm going to ask you to say this with me. You're all on mute, so it's okay. I'll be the only one who might get it wrong. But I want you to really think about enunciating, being as clear as you can with your diction as you speak this. And we're going to do it 3 times fast, because I guess that's just what you do with tongue twisters. All right, here we go. 6 sick chicks nick 6 slick bricks with picks and sticks. 6 sick chicks nick 6 slick bricks with picks and sticks. 6 sick chicks nick 6 slick bricks with picks and sticks. The beauty of doing tongue twisters to warm up your voice is that for however long you do it, you are in the present moment. You're not worried about the talk you're going to give, because if you're not concentrating and you're not fully focused, you will never get this right. So tongue twisters can be a magical way to get your voice warmed up, get your head into the game, and really get all of those muscles going. And if you tend to be some people clench their teeth at night, particularly if they're stressed. I was doing a bit of that with COVID and other things earlier last year. Massaging your jaw can help too. You just want to give your voice the best chance you can to be as resonant as possible. The other way to use your voice is to not use it at all. This is my favorite thing to teach people, the power of pausing. Pausing gets you so much engagement because don't you want to know what I'm going to say next? Of course you do. And when I stop talking for that moment, you're going to listen because suddenly something's changed, and we tend to notice when something's changed. So I am going to ask Amanda, who's agreed to volunteer, to unmute. And here's what I'm going to ask her to do. I've taken some language from a recent press release. SAI has a library. If you haven't checked it out, you ought to. It's awesome. And I'm going to ask her to read it twice. The first time I'm going to ask her to just kind of zoom her way through without any pauses. And then I'm going to ask her to read another version of this where I've built in some places to pause. And I'd like everyone else to just close your eyes. I just want you to listen. So Amanda, are you good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right. You did your yawning. You did your tongue twister.
Yeah.
All right. If everybody could just close their eyes and listen, take it away, Amanda.
All right. The expanding STEM Advocacy Institute Library recently opened its digital doors in an effort to organize and provide access to the growing number of publications and reports on science communication, engagement, and policy. The library is part of SAI's strategic goals of promoting excellence in research, teaching, and program development, strengthening the support of SAI community, and engaging external stakeholders. The SAI library is committed to curating and including diverse authors and publications from around the world.
Okay, one more time.
The expanding STEM Advocacy Institute Library recently opened its digital doors in an effort to organize and provide access to the growing number of publications and reports on science communication, engagement, and policy. The library is part of SAI's strategic goals of promoting excellence in research, teaching, and program development, strengthening the support of the SAI community, and engaging external stakeholders. The SAI library is committed to curating and including diverse authors and publications from around the world.
All right, thank you. You can hear the difference when people pause. Now, I chose this example for another reason. I want to make a really important point about being engaging and compelling. This language is written language. It's not conversational. You don't want to talk that way. When you get in front of people, you want to be as authentic and human, person to person as you can be. You could tell me the same things about this great library, but picking language that's conversational will make you far more engaging and compelling. And we forget about that, especially as scientists. One of the principles that we talk about in our book, Championing Science, is to be human and credible. Unfortunately, many times people approach things being credible with less emphasis on human. The other thing about your voice is that it holds the key to delivering meaning, making your words mean something. And you heard it in the way Amanda read that. She put emphasis in certain places because she was giving meaning with her voice. Most people don't think about their voice as an instrument, but it is. And it's part of the success factor that I talked about earlier. It's learning to use this instrument that we have to play around with the pitch of your voice, to change the volume, to vary your pace. If you talk too fast or too slow or at the same speed, you've got issues. You're going to alienate people. They're not going to want to listen to you. But if you're excited about something, or you pick up your pace to reinforce something that is meaningful, that helps. And then if you slow back down, if you give people variety, you know, it's the spice of life. They say that, right? Well, it's really true when you're communicating, when you're speaking. And I think of my voice as an instrument because I sing. It's my hobby. I am part of a group of amazing women called the Stay at Home Moms. And the last time we were able to do an in-person thing was in 2019, but we had just this amazing experience at retirement homes. And Leslie Noel, the blonde with the endless hair, is our fearless leader. She runs an organization called the Peter Pan Foundation. They do tremendous things with kids and philanthropy and music and theater. And I am just, I can't even begin to tell you how much joy I get from being part of this. But as a singer, I warm up my voice, and I want to share with you another fun warm up that I'd like you to play around with everybody on mute. First, I'll let you listen to it. It starts with making a sound you might have made when you were playing with trucks and cars as a little kid. But that warms up your lips and gets you going. And the other sound she's making is what's known as a siren. And I'll say more about that in a minute. Take a listen.
We're going to do some, a few of those, and some sirens.
So I'm going to play it again and ask you to do it. And the reason I want you to do it is more the siren than the, although that's fun. But I want you to get a sense of the range of your voice. Not everybody thinks about the range, and that siren helps you start to think about and hear that you have a range in your voice. So in the privacy of your own room, I'm not going to do it, but go right ahead.
We're going to do some, a few of those, and some sirens.
All right. Warming up your voice makes a difference. Getting yourself ready to speak and enunciate is really important. And I want to make a further point about meaning. Where you put emphasis can really change how people hear and understand what you're talking about. So I'm going to take us through this quickly rather than try to engage all of you, but I just want you to, again, close your eyes and listen as I walk through 8 versions of this sentence. I didn't understand why she didn't love science. 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 Emphasis matters. And when you want to have impact, when you want to be compelling and you want to engage people, as you're practicing your talk, think about what are the words? Where are the ones that matter the most that I need to put emphasis on? Once you've thought about what you want people to think, do, and feel, and you want to put emphasis to get your message across, you need to really think about what your message is. And this is an area that I've worked in for such a long time. I'm finding myself experimenting a little bit, so I'd love some feedback from you on how to explain messaging, because I just think this way. So I'm trying to unpack that and reverse engineer it. So when I think about messaging, what I think about is taking the pieces that you want to communicate and sewing them together. What most people do is they give you the pieces. They explain something, they have facts, they have data, but they don't always sew it together to create the picture they want you to see, to create the quilt, to help you focus on taking away from what they say exactly what you want them to take from it. So for me, messaging is about strategy. What do I want to accomplish? What are the pieces I need to put together? How do I put them together? How do I make them hang together? How do I reinforce them so that the people listening to me take away from what I've said the message that I want them to have here? So I think of messages as framing, kind of the big picture statements that make a particular impression. And messages, to be effective, have to really be tailored to the people who are listening to you, but also according to your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Remember that feel, think, and do. What is that about? So I think of messages as the things you say that you want people to remember, understand, and believe. So they're overarching statements that you want people to remember. It's clear language, common language, so that what you're saying is easy to understand. And you make a message credible by supporting it with examples. I think of them as proof. What's the proof that the message is it affect a claim? What's the proof? So that's how I think about structuring messages. And I had some fun with Sarah's topic again. And I thought, okay, listening to what she had to say, stepping back and asking myself, how would I message this? What would my framing messages be? And I've got 3. I'm empowering STEM educators to captivate students. I'm building community. And Sarah, I got big as I thought about it. I thought supporting millions, like let's just go big, right? And the third one was about Sarah as a person. Why is she uniquely qualified to do what she's doing? I'm inspired by my passion, my work, and my graduate studies. She's had some unique work experiences, and all of that has kind of come together for her in a way that I can so see why she's doing what she's doing. So to me, these were the overarching messages to help frame and reinforce what she wants people to take away from listening to her. So let's look at some support points too. She's got lesson plans and videos, and she's planning to do kits, and she's going to do some training for educators and parents, and she's going to have a newsletter that gives advice. And what I loved hearing was she's already got traction. She's got feedback from people validating the value of what she's doing and the need for it. And she's also building community already. So those are some of the proof points that reinforce her claim and help that message be credible. So I've taken a couple of her slides to play around with them a little bit to show you how I would put those messages to work. I would use them as headlines. And I might add to this slide, shift it a little bit so that it had some of those other key points in it. Building community to support millions. Then she can show you her Instagram page and the fact that she's got 1,400 followers. Once you've got your message figured out, now it's time to think about how am I going to show that? What are the visuals that will let me show that? I'm wondering if anybody knows Edward Tufte. Most people don't. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat whether you know who he is. Does anybody know who Edward Tufte is? Yes, you do. All right, Caroline. Ah, yes. Okay. Yes, good. No. All right. I'm going to guess there are more no's than yeses, especially if we could ask everybody who's listening today. So I will give you a sense of the man. former professor at Yale, a real pioneer in visualizing data. And he has one key concept that I want you to learn today, and that is the notion of minimal non-data ink. And what that means is if you put something on the slide, it has to be essential for communicating the message of that slide. What he says is strip away everything else that's just going to be something else to look at and potentially distracting. So that's what minimal non-data ink is about. Tufte would cringe over this slide. He would look at that logo and say, that doesn't need to be there. He would look at the word state and say, oh my gosh, we know that Texas, Iowa, California, and Washington are all states. We don't need it to also say state. He would also look at all those numbers written in a strange font and say, do they add meaning? Did they tell you anything that matters? Should we have crosshatch lines? And, you know, maybe to give a little bit of sense of wind power, you could have a turbine, but I will show you what Tufte would be much happier to see. Lots of white space, clarity around the focus, which was Minnesota. Notice that installed wind capacity in megawatts became a title, and there's nothing here to distract you. That's the kind of rigor I want you to have when you think about slides. Here's another example of how to make sure you continue to compel and engage people. Don't put up something small that you pulled out of Excel that's almost impossible to read. Make it big, make it meaningful. Use color to highlight what you want people to look at. And better still, put a box around it. I want to give you one more similar example. I just met a woman from a conference a week ago, and she let me know she was giving a talk. So we got together and I was giving her a little bit of coaching, and this was a slide that she had. And we talked about the Tufte principle. She evolved it to this slide so that it had more of a message. And then she took it one step further because she realized that there really wasn't a lot of value in having the legend. And that's her final slide. See the difference? You really want to call people's attention to the message on the slide. One message per slide. You saw me do that today. I covered a lot of different ground. And I'll admit to you, there was a point at which I had the yawn and the siren and the tongue twister in little spots on the slide. And I thought to myself, wait a second, you better practice what you preach. So I went ahead and changed that. So that's the kind of rigor you need to apply as you look at a presentation and you ask yourself how to make it more engaging and compelling. We've covered a lot of ground, 7 topics. I could spend more time on every single one of these, and I'd be happy to answer questions that you have about anything we've talked about today. But I promised you that at the end of this time, you would feel more confident in your ability to be compelling and engaging. And I am certain that you will stand out from many, many, many speakers out there because they don't know what you just learned. And it's been great having the chance to share all this with you today.
Fantastic. Amy, thank you so much for those insights. And I think the key words again are practice, practice, practice. Okay, can we break up a word and slow down in there too, right? Questions, open this thing up. So for those of you new to this, please ask away questions. You can raise a hand if you want or jump in. I'll be monitoring, and if you all keep quiet, I'll ask my myriad of questions. So the floor is open.
Well, I'll start with one question that I know people often have, which is, how do you feel more confident? You know, it's nerve-wracking to get up in front of the room, right? And I have a couple pieces of advice. The first is think about what you're communicating as the story you want to tell, because it's easier to remember stories. And if you structure your presentation and you take more of a story approach, it's easier to internalize. It's easier to feel it and know it And when you know it and own it, it helps you be more confident. And back to practice. If you don't already know this trick, you can print your slides out 9 up so that you've got lots of white space around them. And I leave myself a couple of rounds of this and I make notes on it with the key words that I want to remember to say. And then I use it as my study guide. I happen to be a very visual learner, so it works really well for me. But I think of this as a presentation map, and then I know my flow. The other thing I do is I think about, how am I going to get from one point to the next? What are the transitions? And once I've worked through all of that, it gives me so much more confidence because I don't have to wonder where I'm going. I know. So those are my tips. And the other thing I'd say is embrace the nerves. It's energy. It lets you gesture more, bring out your enthusiasm. Don't try to suppress them, because that's like telling the dog not to chase the squirrel. You don't want to do that. You don't hold it in. You want to let yourself use your breath, use your hands, be bigger, and tap into that energy instead of feeling nervous.
That's great. Questions?
Oh, I'm just looking at Rosario's comment. That's awesome. I'm so glad.
Yeah. John, you want to go ahead?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much, Amy. That was really great. I mean, because what's your take about, for example, because I'm not native speaker, but like, so I was born in the Philippines, and then, so what's your take about like the accent, like how important it is, and like conveying. So for us, like for example, me who's not native English speaker,
Well,
maybe that's also one of the thing, aside from me having some stage fright, so I cannot really like speak in front of people, but it's kind of like different when I sing on stage. So like that's the time I become confident, when I sing on stage, but like speaking like presentations, I tend to become nervous and stuff. But yeah.
totally understandable. A couple of things. First, what's important is making sure you pronounce words clearly. So it's okay to not be a native English speaker. It's okay to be you. That's what we want. We want to hear from you. If you can practice so that you pronounce things clearly, your accent won't matter. What trips people up is when their diction isn't clear and people aren't sure what they said, or they pronounce a word in a way that native English speakers aren't sure what you've said. So I'm working with a student right now who is from Iran, and she's talking about methods. And instead of saying methods with that TH and the D, she says method. And the first time I heard her say it, I had to think about, what is she saying? So what you can do is ask a native English speaker to listen to you practice and to pick those words that they're not clear about. And if you find out what they are and how to pronounce them properly, you'll be fine. You'll be just fine.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And I want to say one other thing. If you have the confidence to get up and sing, you've got to tap into that. You've got to feel like you're getting up to sing when you speak.
Yeah,
remember,
you're sorry. I agree with the nerves as well, because once I step on stage, it's like I get so like anxious and nervous. But the time the moment I utter the first line of the song, I tend to forget that there are people in front, and like I just finish the song and then that's it.
Absolutely. The other trick, Fanuel and I were talking about this, is just imagine you're having a conversation with one person, because we're all more at ease when we're doing that, instead of noticing who's on stage. And then the last point I would make is that be careful of your self-talk. It's really easy to go, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous. That's not going to help. Just think about the chemical response to those words. How about, I'm really excited. This is a big deal. Today's an opportunity for me. Wow. So play a little head game and shift what you tell yourself, because that can help with the physiological response that you're having.
Thank you.
Sure. Nice to meet you, fellow singer.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm just reading some comments from the chats. This was great. I have to practice from Naisha as well. Thank you. I love the concept from Gabriella of reverse engineering your talk, breaking it down from the reverse. Yeah, I think the key message is practice. You just have to practice this. And for the fellows, again, your pitches are 5 minutes, right? It's really short. So even more imperative that you really have to practice. And for those of you wondering, like, what's the utility of all this? It's not only just for presentations. When you're talking to potential funders, right, to sponsors, they're gonna be paying attention to the same things that Amy just went over. How you look, how you speak, how you communicating the different messages. I think that's really critical that you do that. So, okay, I'm gonna read, there's a hand raised and then there's a comment. So I will go with the hand first, Claire, then Naisha. Claire, go ahead.
Hey, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so my question is you're telling us to practice, 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 and I was wondering if we are giving one, let's say 10 to 15 minute talk, about how much time should we spend practicing for that talk?
It's going to vary depending on who you are and how connected to your information you are. So it's hard for me to tell you how much time, but what I will tell you is the intervals that I think are important. I think you need to finalize what you want to talk about, what you want to say, at least 3 days before you give your talk. Don't be making changes up to the last minute. God, I had a CEO who did that. It made me just crazy. He was constantly changing. So finalize it 3 days early. Then make yourself one of these presentation maps, 9 up, and write out the key message points for your slides and your transitions. The process of writing it down helps to embed it in your head. Then I highly recommend you review it right before you fall asleep. And I know that may sound like not good advice because you might not sleep after that. But the reason I recommend that is that if you put it into your head just before you fall asleep, your subconscious mind gets to play with it, and that helps internalize it. So I tend to do that 2 days before, 1 day before, depending upon the nature of the talk. And then I will get on my treadmill and practice, because moving and practicing also helps embed it in your body. It's one of those ways that works. So I don't know if I've entirely answered your question, Claire, but I wanted to give you a sense of some of the methods, and that you don't want to wait to the day before to practice it. And if it's a 10-minute talk, I would say, you at least want to run through it and feel like you've got the flow down solid at least 4 times. I think that's a good number for a 10-minute talk.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. As you probably can tell, I kind of love doing this, so it's really fun for me to start my Saturday this way.
And just to get close to the end here, to summarize, and this plays into Naisha's question about, do you go back and look at your presentation recordings after you do them? Does this help? She writes, I feel that I get nervous going back to evaluate myself, and it can be very tough on me. And I want to echo that. That's the thing, that you should try to find that as much feedback as possible. Whenever I give a presentation, say, how did that go? And in fact, I do it the reverse. I will tell the speaker who I invited, for example, can you stay back after the presentation? I want to give you my 2 cents. What was well? What could we use improvement? So Amy, any thoughts on this? How do you get over that hurdle of evaluating yourself?
It's just personal. We are vulnerable when we watch ourselves. I remember back when I was doing media relations and I would see myself doing an interview, it just, all of a sudden I hated my nose, seeing things like that you don't notice right until you're looking at yourself. And then I realized that I talk with my head, and I had dangling earrings on once that were swinging, and I thought, oh my heavens, you look like you've got chandeliers on your ears. So yes, I've been there. I know that sense of vulnerability. You just have to be kind to yourself and say, I am working on getting better at this. I want to be better at this. And I know I have room to improve. I have room to improve all the time. I take pieces of the things that I shared with you today and I incorporate one or two at a time. I make that my focus for a particular talk. That would be the other recommendation I have for you is say, okay, this time when I give the talk, I'm going to be conscious of pausing and vocal variety. And then evaluate, did you do that? Were those things you were able to put attention to and carry out? So give yourself a framework for reviewing what you've been focused on improving, and that might help.
Fantastic. And so just minding the time here, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Amy, that was fantastic. I know we have another session with you. You're going to be with us for the duration of this voyage of ours. Okay. So thank you so much for those comments, and this will be available online, of course, and the notes, the slides will be shared to the fellows separately later. I also want to, at this point, we give you a plug in for our next speaker. So Dr. Anna Skop, so she will be coming to us from University of Wisconsin and talking to us about, the question mark being too creative for science. And so this is really, really exciting to have her come by. And this is in collaboration with the New Society Gallery that we're building at SAI, and really exploring these topics about art being a vehicle of connecting science and society. And so we're gonna get to see how she is using art as a vehicle and through research, through all those different components. So stay tuned for that, April 17th, right here, 12 p.m. as always. And with that, thank you all. Gonna